I think we can see where we got off the rails here. We have a goal of improving local control and influence, but at the exclusion of the input of the workers who actually perform the jobs at the local level. And that's why we have a room filled with people here today wanting to know what is going on with their livelihood. We have public workers here. I can see in the back of the room, you can see the firefighters with fire hats on. They're here wanting to know about their future because they haven't had an influence in this process yet. No meaningful input. And we're looking at a bill that has been dropped with the absolute minimum notice allowed by our rules, with a hearing that was scheduled within 24 hours to seek some of their input. And yet here we are in committee, and the majority caucus here with their bill has shown no change to their position based on 2 hours of testimony and concerns that have been presented. There's no impact, no effect on this legislation from the 2-hour sample that we had yesterday. And we had some compelling stories told yesterday about what this legislation means to the real lives of people in this state who want to be public servants. These are hard jobs. These are jobs that our community needs to be handled by qualified individuals. We want the best people in our state patrolling our streets. We want the best people in our state educating our children. But when it comes to figuring out how to do that, how do we actually grow Iowa's economy at the community level, all we have done is take away and limit influence and say local control means you're going to do as told by elected officials that don't work with you, that don't understand your jobs, that will simply dictate terms and conditions of your employment. This is a major piece of legislation. Chapter 20 has been working for 40 years. And we are rushing through a process to completely gut it of all meaning from that original compromise. And we're doing it with an immediate effective date. We're not even giving people time to adjust to what this means to their livelihoods. What is the rush? What is the rush to upset a balance that has been in this state? This isn't a system or a process that has no influence from taxpayers. This isn't a system that has no influence from any outside areas. Elected officials have a seat at the table in this process. If you're reasonable with your proposals, you go to a neutral arbitrator and defend them. And you defend them based on evidence that's to be considered in relation to the job that's actually being done and the contract and the conditions of that employment. This is 40-plus pages of fixing the system, of rigging the outcome of the process. Senator Bisignano talked about all the new illegal topics of bargaining. That's not influence at the local level. That's saying you don't get to talk to me about these things. It's now illegal for you to bring up health insurance. Is that right? For people that are taxpayers in your communities who want a seat at the table to talk about what is reasonable. If this really is about doing something to grow Iowa's economy or make our communities safer, I'm missing the point of where that comes up in this piece of legislation. All we want to do in the bargaining process is make sure that everyone's affected, who is affected by this, has influence in the process. This legislation strips that away. This makes it a one-sided deal. It's take it or leave it offers, and it's no more just cause for termination. This is upsetting the apple cart. This is a big deal. It deserved more consideration and more input than what we are getting here today. I want to get to a few of the points. We've heard comments that there are dangerous jobs, so we want to have a separate system for people who are engaged in dangerous professions. It's dangerous to be an EMT that's called out to an accident scene. Senator Taylor talked about it's dangerous to work in one of our prisons. It's dangerous to be a teacher. Yet we are separating out people because we've decided that we're going to create some more haves and have-nots in a system. But we didn't exempt police and firefighters. They just lose a few fewer benefits than everybody else. Make no mistake about it, this legislation really reaches out into your communities, and it's going to affect who does the work. Who's going to work in city services? Who's going to teach your children? Who's going to protect your families in your community? That has to be considered. We've talked and talked and talked about the need to grow our economy for stronger, safer communities. This doesn't do it. This doesn't do anything to increase the benefits or wages of any community member. This doesn't grow the local economy at the local level. This doesn't find ways to put more police officers on the street. This doesn't find any way to find new qualified teachers. All it does is put a stiff arm and say, think about this profession before you get into it. Because you have a lot fewer rights than anyone in the public sector by stepping into this role. I would urge the committee to consider what we heard from community members, and if we do vote this out of committee, I urge the members of this committee to talk to the people in this room about why they're here today and why this really does matter to their livelihood, to their family and their community. I urge you to vote no on this legislation.